The order of service for the Queen's state funeral reveals what people can expect from the hour-long event on Monday morning. According to details released late on September 18, officials will not waste a second of the time allotted for the funeral, due to run from 11 a.m. to 11:55 a.m. Thousands of people expected to attend can anticipate a full schedule of full-on dedication to the late monarch in the morning. What is the order of service for the Queen's funeral? Reverend Dr. David Hoyle MBE, the Dean of Westminster, will direct the funeral service from 11 a.m. on September 18. Beforehand, the order of service released by the PA news agency states a tenor bell will toll every minute for 96 minutes, commemorating the Queen's 96 years. The schedule adds, members of foreign royal families, heads of state, and overseas government representatives are received at the Great West Door by the Dean and Chapter of Westminster and are conducted to their seats in the lantern. All remain seated. Read more. Queen's much-loved horses will lead funeral procession. Queen's order of service in full. Every detail of the Queen's funeral. Image, Getty. Queen's order of service in full. Dr. David Hoyle, the Dean of Westminster, will lead the service. Image, Getty. Read more. Camilla Queen consort debuts subtle hairstyle change. Pictures after pre-service music. A procession of religious representatives will move to places in the nave and sacrarium of Westminster Abbey, with everyone remaining seated. Representatives from the churches of Wales, Scotland, England and Northern Ireland will be among them. Everyone in the Abbey will stand as the procession of the coffin enters, backed by a choir. Officials will read sentences from the Bible as the procession moves through the Abbey. Queen's order of service in full. Liz Truss will deliver a lesson. Image, Getty. The procession will eventually place the coffin, surmounted by the imperial state crown, orb, and scepter, at the Abbey's centre. The Dean of Westminster will then deliver the bidding, a dedication to the Queen, and attendees will observe a brief silence halfway through. Once he has concluded the bidding, attendees will stand and sing a hymn. They sit again ahead of the first lesson, delivered by the Baroness Scotland of Astall KC, Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. A choir will close the lesson with a psalm, with the crowds remaining seated before Prime Minister Liz Truss follows with a lesson of her own. The choir then sings another hymn accompanied by attendees, who stand once more. Attendees will sit again to hear a sermon delivered by Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. His sermon closes with another hymn from the choir before prayers led by Reverend Mark Birch, minor canon, and precentor. Don't miss Cherie uniform mystery as friend hits out at humiliation, but it's not what it seems. Analysis. Royal family live, Charles to wield axe on Andrew, Harry and Beatrice who could lose role. Live blog. Mike Tyndall told off for breaking silence during procession. Zara shot him a look. Video. Queen's order of service in full. The Queen's procession will include much of the royal family. Image, Getty. Read more. 500 people may be dying unnecessarily every week. The following religious figures follow with their own dedications. Reverend Dr. Ian Greenshields, moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. Shermara Fletcher, Principal Officer for Pentecostal and Charismatic Relations, Churches Together in England. Dame Sarah Mullally DBE, Bishop of London and Dean of His Majesty's Chapels. Royal Reverend Canon Helen Cameron, moderator of the Free Churches Group. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, Archbishop of Westminster. Stephen Cottrell, Archbishop of York, Primate of England and Metropolitan. Reverend Birch will close the prayers before attendees stand and sing another hymn and stay out of their seats for a commendation led by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The choir sings the anthem, followed by a blessing from the Dean, and everyone standing observes the last post in silence. They will then sing the national anthem together before watching the coffin and processions leave the church, played out by the Queen's Piper, Warrant Officer Class 1, Pipe Major, Paul Burns. ending the procession leading the coffin away from Westminster Abbey includes more than 20 people, both royals and religious figures. The full procession includes Verger Primatial Cross of York, Primatial Cross of Canterbury, Stephen Cottrell, Archbishop of York, Primate of England, and Metropolitan Justin Welby, Archbishop of Canterbury, Primate of all England and Metropolitan, the Cross of Westminster, and lights the Reverend Robert Latham Minor Canon, and sacrist the Reverend Mark Birch Minor Canon, and precentor Mr. Paul Bowman CBE, Receiver General Sir Kenneth Allis OBE, High Bailiff of Westminster Verger Tricia Hillis, Canon Steward and Archdeacon of Westminster Reverend Dr. James Hawkey Canon, Theologian and Almoner the Right Reverend Anthony Ball Canon of Westminster, and Rector of St. Margaret's Church the Reverend David Stanton, Subdean and Canon Treasurer Deans Verger the Very Reverend Dr. David Hoyle MBE, Dean of Westminster, King Charles V Queen Consort Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, the Princess Royal, the Duke of York, the Countess of Wessex and Forfar, the Earl of Wessex and Forfar, the Princess of Wales, the Prince of Wales, Princess Charlotte of Wales, Prince George of Wales, the Duchess of Sussex, the Duke of Sussex, the Earl of Snowdon, Mr. Peter Phillips, the Duke of Gloucester, Prince Michael of Kent, the Duke of Kent. During this time, the order of service states attendees are requested to remain in their places until invited to move by the honorary stewards. Later in the afternoon, the Westminster Abbey Company of Ringers and a peal of Stedman caters will ring fully muffled bells with 5,096 changes,